sent that to him for was talking about the Mary, which is a source we were talking about. And here he said the Mary was taking the strictest stance. Well, of course, that's what he was taking, because that's from Rob Schwartz's book about he's trying to use sources to tell Gentiles not to study Torah, or that they shouldn't study Torah.
Well, here, what it says is,
Using
but it plainly says you can study Torah right here. However, if he learns the 7 commandments with their details and all that may be gleaned from them, then even though the main body of our Torah is contained in them, it is fitting to honor him as one would a high priest.
Mhm.
Well, I never understood this concept about, well, as long as you're just learning about the 7. Well, the 7 tie into everything, Torah wise.
They
It depends on how deep you want to take it, on what level and where you're looking from. You know what I mean?
sure, they're going to tell you, oh, you can just study the Tanakh and what the Tanakh study shows about the 7 laws. So what we have is a school of thinking where they take the most stringent view in halakha and apply it to the non-Jew. And so here it's like they're trying to explain this uh, source from the Mary, where it's talking about if a non-Jew studies Torah, he's equal to a Kohen Gadol, and then he's going to explain to you, uh, how that works. Well, he's studying the part of the Torah that belongs to him, and that's how he becomes like a Kohen Gadol. So, um, but then that begs the whole question: well, what's the source, or the sources that pertain to the 7 laws? Now, right here, I believe it's right here in this page. I think it shows. I don't if it shows where the Rav Schwartz is sourcing the Zohar to teach us about how you don't study the Torah that don't pertain to you, but in his example, he's proving that the Zohar obviously pertains to the non-Jew in this particular instance, or he wouldn't be sourcing it to tell us about how to do or not to do something. Um, so, I mean, where do you draw the line at? Some people, some rabbis want to draw the line at anything. Some draw the line at nothing. It's like, I'll study anything you want. And then some of them, then there's a centrist view that says, kind of like, if you have a question, then you can study. Then that question can be answered, and you can study the part of the sources that associate with that question. So you have 3 levels. You have the most stringent level that says that the Noahide cannot study Torah. You have the most lenient side that says you can study anything. It doesn't matter. And then you have this center view that says you can study what you have questions about or what you're doing. So if you're studying about the 7 laws, or you're studying about something within that 7 laws, and it goes into a Talmudic source and you have a question about that source, then the rabbis can teach you about that source because you're asking questions about it. And so the idea, the way I was told, is that if you have three views, if you have a stringent view, a lenient view, and a moderate view, that rabbis always go with the moderate view. You will not hear this within certain Noahide rabbi circles. You'll never hear this. So the thing about it is, this is important to talk about for all these Noahides that are convinced they can't study Torah, and they will debate you and argue with you till the bitter end over it. But I have never seen one that has not studied an outside source. I mean, I'm sure there may be
Well, I
some
mean,
purist somewhere, but I haven't seen that guy.
well, here, let's think about this for a second. To argue that point means that you would be arguing from the oral Torah stance on it. Okay, in other words, you're taking a halakhic view, rabbinic view, halakhic, coming out of the Mishnah Torah. Well, that one actually said Sanhedrin 59a, if I'm correct. I have to go back and look at that page. So, in other words, you would define what you're arguing is something that's in the oral. So you would have to be studying Torah to find that, or be told by a rabbi. So in other words, what I'm saying is you can't study Torah. So if I can't study Torah, then they don't apply to me. So if they're saying only study what applies to you, well, this is what applies to me. Well, this is out of the Mishnah, and it says you can't study that. Well, that don't apply to me. The Mishnah doesn't apply to me. I'm not a Jew. I didn't. This, if you're saying Sinai doesn't anything outside the seven laws, anything after Noah doesn't apply to me, then you're taking the Mishnah, which is Sinai, and applying it to me. You're applying law to me that was given at Sinai. It don't make any sense to me. I don't understand it. You know what I mean? So I think it sounds like they're drawing a line that is not representative of what they're trying to tell you. In other words, it's do as I say, not as I do. Well, you're telling me I can't do something sourced by something that don't relate to me anyway, because you're saying the only thing that relates to me is the seven laws. Well, then you go over here to the Mishnah, and you're quoting old Torah to back up why you're telling me I can only study this part. Well, if you're sourcing out of something that don't apply to me, then how can it apply? It
Well,
don't. You
they'll
know what I
tell
mean?
you can study the Rambam because the Rambam will tell you not to study Torah. That's their source to use to tell you not to study Torah. So they'll say you can study that, which is an outside source, but it's telling you not to study Torah. So that's that's okay to study. But if the Zohar was to tell us not to study Torah, they could say, "Oh, you can't study that." So
Yeah. I
it's
don't.
what it boils down to is who is taking the most stringent view and who is taking the most lenient view, and then who is taking this centrist view and saying, okay, these guys obviously have been exposed to it. I mean, you see behind me all of these Jewish books that are in English. So they wrote it in English, and now they're complaining about us learning it because they translated it into English. And I mean, these are translations from kosher sources and translators that translated it. And
Right.
so I remember Rabbi Sutton with his when he wrote the book Spiritual Technology, that he said that, hey, look, we've done translated all this into English. He said, now we're obligated to teach it correctly because you're having access to things and to information. And so, we're obligated to teach it in a certain way. Now you're going to run across these rabbis that they'll tell you, no, we're not obligated to do it. Whether it's in English or not, you're not supposed to do it, and we're not obligated to teach it correctly. Now that we've let the cat out of the bag, so
Well, it's kind of in their court the way I see it. Either you teach it and you teach it correctly, kosher, or you let people come up with their own theology of what their own concepts and interpretation of what the sages and these oral documents or that were written down, like reading the Zohar. If you're not taught by a rabbi, by a Torah scholar, then you're left to your own devices. And a book like the Zohar, you know it can really, you can see how that could run away really fast. I mean, you could have, it seems like there's multiple gods, there's deities everywhere, there's, outside influences. The story doesn't seem coherent throughout. It's, because in other words, it's hard enough to look up a source in the Zohar by trying to find the proper page number, and whether it's 92A, 92B. And what we've learned by doing it is that just because you have a Zohar doesn't mean it's broke up according to what your word that you can. So if you're reading something and it sources Zohar at 92A, you may pick up your Zohar and you realize, well, that's not what 92A stands for. So what I'm alluding to is that even to use it as a source material, you have to be taught how to properly use it. Even to look something up to make sure, hey, this is really does say this in here. You know what I mean? That's just that's the baby steps right there, and that's very difficult without a teacher to do that. So, in other words, if they choose, they say, well, we're not going to teach, we're not obligated. I don't disagree with them. Besides the point of Isaiah, to be a light unto the nations. Now they can say, well, yeah, we are light. You have questions about the 7 laws, come to us and we'll help you with them. But outside that, we're not obligated. And my question would be then, what do you think is going to happen with what you're saying, where everything's translated to English, and people are going to start coming to their own conclusions about the interpretation of these verses and these writings, and you can already see the different religions in the take Christianity as a perfect example of of without the guidance and removing, still trying to stay connected to the God of Israel and to the Jewish people, but at the same time wanting to be, what do they say? They're divorced, from their creator. We're the new bride, Christianity. You see, without the proper guidance, that's what you're going to get. The Noahide movement would just be, they would just look down at both Jew and Christian. Oh, well, we have it right because we understand the Jewish thought. And so now we're going to run with it because we're the enlightened ones and y'all are stuck in idolatry, and the Jews don't want to teach us. So it's up to us to interpret this, and this is what we think it means. So this is what we're going to go with. It could be so. In other words, with that stance of, well, I'm not obligated and I don't have to, and you shouldn't. That don't seem like, it seems like it could be a very horrible outcome, you know, by looking at it from the outside and knowing what me and you've known over the years of studying Torah and being taught by rabbis. There's a lot of this it would never come to fruition if it wasn't for certain rabbis that taught us what we know today, you know? So, and like you said, I know it's not all rabbis, but you have those rabbis out there telling people, and they're stuck. What are they doing every night?
yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to study, what is their answer to them? Hey, I really want to read the parshas. Oh, well, you can't do that. Oh, okay. Well, then, I just want to pray. Well, you don't. You just go ahead and pray however you want to. Well, okay, I got a siddur. Oh, you can't use that. That's for Jews.
Well, someone will tell you
It,
you're not obligated to play. You're not even obligated to repent.
yeah. Well,
So it
and see
just
that
depends on
that
who you're talking to and what context they're taking. How stringent in a view are they taking on what we see that's been happening is basically we see uh, the halakha that would apply to the Christian, they're applying it to the Noahide. So they invent a word that's called Noahide,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then they put the halakha, the most stringent halakha that would be for the Christian, and then they apply that halakha to this Noahide, and so that's the whole reason for inventing a word called Noahide. Why? Because it doesn't have any halakha associated with it. But if you could take that word Noahide and say, okay, we're going to place the halakha of an akum, let's just say,
Hmm.
an idol worshiper, and the same halakha that they would apply for the Christian, uh, they would, and then they put it onto the Noah. If they said Ger Toshav or something else that was grounded
Kosher.
in
I mean,
uh,
that was in
was
Torah.
grounded in the sources, yeah, rabbinical
Yeah.
sources like a ger or ger toshav or this or that, it would be they couldn't say that because it already has an established identity, and it wouldn't work for them. So they invent the word Noahide, and then they apply whatever halakha they want to with it, which is the most stringent. But we have to look at one thing and say that if
I don't think they
there's
invented the word Noahide though. I don't think the
what
Jewish people had anything to
who
do
would
with the
have
word
who
Noahide.
who would have done it?
We did. I think the Gentiles did. I mean,
I
because
don't
what? I mean, well, okay. When was it first started to be used? Because there's no sources that have any any age to them, that would use the term Noahide. So it would be. I don't see how a Jewish person wrapped in tradition, and that was that was a Torah scholar, but he was like, oh well, you're a Noahide. That doesn't make any sense because the word don't even exist. You know what I mean?
Well, it
Well, what am I,
happened.
Robert? I'm a Noahide.
Well,
Now they
it
might have said,
happened.
"Hey, you fall under the Noahide laws," and somebody said, "Well,
Well,
I
then
guess
there
I'm a
again,
Noahide."
there's no source for Noahide laws. There's the seven Sheva mitzvot. Don't have the word Noahide in it.
Yeah. Well.
It was a rabbinical uh, modern, and I'm talking about a relatively modern uh, well word that was associated with the Noahide movement, which we're talking about probably 1990, maybe late 80s, but 1990s. Even Vendell Jones, and I listened to some of his old teachings and stuff like that, trying to see when he used or if he used Noahide in the early days, and I've never found one. I'm not saying he didn't, but I can't find any teachings. Ben Vendel would say B'nai Noah, even at the 1990 conference, and some of that Vendel used B'nai Noah. Now I'm not saying it's not in there. Just I've never found it. I've looked at some books and found the word Noahide. In about 1976, I see where it's used by, uh, I'm not going to say that they may have been secular scholars or just from a scholarly books that wrote about something and talked about the seven laws and maybe called them Noahide laws. And then, of course, we can see that the 21st level of the Scottish Rite in um, Masonry, or whatever you call that stuff. Um, it's called the no height laws. They didn't call it no height, but they definitely called it no height.
No height. It's
And
very interesting. I'll have to look that up.
so that would take that back toward the 1700s. But no height is actually even a better word. Uh, in a sense, to use the Noahide. But these it became associated with the this idea of a righteous non-Jew from the nations following the Torah that pertained to him. The word evolved with the within the rabbinical realms. It had to, if I don't know who would have coined it, maybe a Gentile coined it, but the rabbis certainly picked up on it and used it because they had a dilemma. And the
Now, yeah,
dilemma
I'm not.
is
Yeah,
they called the convert a ger. And in the Torah, we know that the word ger means, it's translated as stranger,
stranger.
but then it also means, it can mean convert, it can mean a righteous person from among the nations.
It
Okay.
just depends on the
And
context. Yeah,
it depends on the context on everyone. Sometimes it can actually mean both, um, because it's Gary. It's a neutral word that depends on the context to identify what it's talking about. But since they started calling these converts Ger, obviously it's very confusing for them to do that because Deuteronomy 14:21 is going to say that the Ger can eat, or the Ger in your gate, according to the context, can eat the nevela. So we know that ger can't mean convert, especially in that context,
right. Because they can eat the
and
novella.
because they're not going to eat the nevela. So
Yeah,
it's confusing, but they had this dilemma because they've allowed it, and why? Because there wasn't Noahides for 2,000 years. So what are you going to do?
right.
The converts a ger. And so, bless their heart, these converts get all upset at people using Ger because, hey, you're trying to steal my little identity that I got, and when they know the text doesn't include them exclusively, and but bless their heart, they've went through the measures that it took to become accepted within the community, and they deserve the status that they have. There's no doubt in my mind that.
Yeah,
But
and I think too, a lot of it, looking at this whole Noahide, you know, uh, debate, I guess you could call it, but it's really more of it's a mission to just to seek the truth like we do in Torah. So eh, I can understand. I can. I think we can all step back and take a minute and say, look, I get why the Jewish people act the way they do about it. I mean, here you have Christianity, that claims that there's this new covenant, and Israel's not the chosen people anymore. I mean, he's gonna follow through and hold true to his covenant he made with them. But really, these are the new priests. This is the church. We have a new covenant. And then you have inside that, you have different movements. You have the Messianics who act completely Jewish. I mean, if you want to talk about robbery of heritage, that right there is the worst display of it. You know what I mean? I mean, you're. I mean, they look like Jews. They somewhat they talk like Jews. They say they do the Sabbath. I mean, just depending on which one you talk to, because they don't even know what they're doing. Half of them. I'm not saying they're not smart people or intelligent people. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's definitely a slap in the face, and you're robbing somebody's heritage by acting like that and not being a Jew. I mean, I don't care who you are. You heard it here. If you walk out in the street and you walk like it, you talk like it, you wear the clothes, you use the words, people are gonna assume you're Jewish. But people that know you're not. That is robbing somebody's heritage. Okay, that and I understand how that can make somebody upset. I've never been in that situation. I'm just a old country boy from Texas, so there's nothing to really rob here. But it I can understand how they can say, look, we don't want to, this is just another spinoff, just like the Messianics from Christianity. And here comes another one. Y'all just trying to be more Jewish because y'all think y'all, y'all got this new covenant, even though y'all say, oh, well, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in Jesus, or, well, that's fine. But it's the same thing. You're the same thing. You're just coming here to get information from us. You want to learn from us. We're going to teach you, and you're going to go out, and then eventually, 100 years from now, it's going to be this big movement. You're going to have Noahide centers. I understand their fears and concerns. Absolutely, you can't. Anybody that denies that is not being honest with themselves and not being honest with the movement in a whole, because there is a lot of problems, and the word Noahide, it's not the right word to use. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say here is if you look from the Jewish perspective and say, look, y'all can't even get the name right of what y'all are. You know what I mean? Y'all try to say you're Noahide. What is that? That don't even exist within Torah, but you want us to teach you Torah, and you call yourself something outside of Torah. Y'all need to get it right. First, identify what you are. Now, I know you'll say, well, we have, and rabbis say, oh, we're not Ger Toshab, we're not Ger because converts. Well, we need to, we're pulling the sources and we're coming to them and saying, well, this is what this rabbi, this is what this sage said, this is what this one, and we're learning about the three different viewpoints, just like you talked about earlier. And that's the process that we're going to have to go to, not just to prove to them, hey, we this is something we will hold sacred, that we will guard just like you guard it, and we want to be taught. You know what I mean? But when you have people, and everybody's guilty of it, you get on there and you put a kippah on, and you walk down the street, or you have the mezuzah on your house, and you tell people, oh, I gotta make it home for Shabbat, and then, oh, you're gonna be at the baseball game tomorrow? Oh yeah, I'll drive up there and see y'all up in Dallas tomorrow on Saturday. You see how I can anybody that said they don't understand why the Jewish people feel the way they do about it, they're not being honest. Do I do Shabbat? I don't keep Shabbat. I do it as memorial. I light the candles at the time, and that, to sanctify the day, because God, I'm doing it strictly for the sake of heaven. I don't tell people I'm Jewish. I don't act Jewish when I go on the street. I wear the keep, when I do my prayers, I wear it. All that is something I do, all that out of respect of the Jewish people and for the sake of heaven, lighting the candles as a memorial. You know what I mean? So I think first, what we need to do as a movement is to take an honest look in the mirror and say, where do we fall short? You know what I mean? Okay, these are our shortcomings, and this is why we're in the situation we're in. Now, you know this better than anybody, Russell, and you can probably talk about this a little bit more. It don't matter what you do or how you act or how right you try to do something, there's still going to be people against it. There's still going to be rabbis that don't want nothing to do with it, that they're going to spend their whole time and all their efforts to disprove every source and every point you try to make. And all you're doing at the end is trying to identify, what am I? And you'll get nothing but pushback. Those people you can't do nothing with. But there's a lot of good rabbis out there. If you approach them the right way and you're respectful and you act like you're supposed to act and do what you're supposed to do, they're more than willing to sit there and teach you. You know what I mean? So it's I think it just comes down to respect and us being honest with ourselves about, and really stop using the word Noahide. I mean, if you want to know the truth, there has to come a day when we have to start, separating ourselves from something that's not in the Torah. If you're trying to become, develop a relationship with your Creator, but you're calling yourself something that's not even within the realm of Torah, then that's how you identify to Torah, by using this terminology, this word that don't exist in Torah. Stop and think about it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know what I mean? And you can understand how people could look at it and say, well, yeah, I'm not going to teach that guy. He's a Noahide. What is that? Let me get my sources, and I don't know what to do with them because I can't find nothing on a Noahide. I got some laws over here, but there's nothing about no Noahide. So yeah, I'm not obligated to teach you anything. There's nothing in here, you know.
Hmm. Well, that's you know, that's a uh, true analogy of the situation that we've evolved ourselves into because we have different uh, levels of halakha, the stringent, the lenient, all these different things. So it depends on what rabbi you learn from and what views that he takes. Is he compassionate and trying to help you learn, or is he domineering and is trying to restrict you from learning and helping yourself and bettering yourself? It's something that I've never understood these rabbis that take the stringent view and try to withhold everybody from Torah, because how do you know that somebody's not trying to learn to convert? Maybe their mazel is to convert, but they need to learn about it first. And but you restricting them back so far, they don't even find out that maybe conversion is what they want. So they're not asking to convert; they're trying to just explore Judaism and all this stuff. And these rabbis hit them with a ton of bricks saying, no, don't do this, don't do that, don't. And then the next thing that comes up in their mind is, well, I don't want to do this. And they go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
So,
it could
uh,
have an opposite effect. There's no doubt about that.
and that's what we're seeing with these extremist,
A
stringent
negative effect. Yeah.
rabbis that, and it's very negative. And so what we try to do is, explore Torah and learn it and learn who we are, learn the sources about it and what's going on, and if it leads us down a road to where we have to learn something else to understand something, then we do it, and for the sake of heaven. And those of us that decide that conversion is what they want, they have a lot more knowledge going into it, and they don't wind up becoming a bitter convert because it didn't turn out the way they thought it would, because they were limited in their knowledge to begin with of what it
Going
was
in. Right.
going into it. Yeah. and,
Yeah.
and so it's what's happening, I think, with these rabbis that are taking this most stringent view of halakha and placing the righteous from among the nations under the halakha, or the same halakha that they would a Christian, is creating, ultimately creating this bitter convert, because um, they give the person that is wants to attach to Torah to some degree no other option but to fully accept the 613. And then, if that's not what their mazel is needed, uh, or was ready to accept, then they've already done the conversion, and now they're a bitter convert. And I've seen it happen many times. And but I've seen some that had conversion, and it was a natural thing, and they couldn't be happier. And then, but
Right.
there is a flip side to the coin, and that's called the bitter convert, and that feels isolated, that feels whatever, uh, burdened by their choice. And so it's the rabbis should be lenient and let the non-Jew explore Judaism in a honest way, and see where Hashem leads him. But we don't have that. I mean, we got a lot of rabbis that do that, but there's uh, some, I would say, and everybody runs across them, and I guarantee you, it's they know who we're talking about when they run across them.
Well,
It's that obvious.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, they kind of stand out, and they let you know pretty quick where they stand on it. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
You're not left wondering, you know.
And so is the B'nai Noach that support him, you
Yeah,
know. And
yeah,
so though they've got these particular Noahides that don't want to learn any more than they have to, and they sure enough don't want to do any more than they don't have to. And so these guys are um holding the perimeter as well. Oh, they're going to correct you immediately. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't say that, or this is not right. That's not right. And because they support their rabbi's view that says, hey, we don't have to do anything.
yeah.
And
I
so,
think
and you don't.
Yeah, well, that's them supporting their rabbi and wanting to be a part of a group. It's the same thing as using the word Noahide. You want to identify as something, so you want to attach to something. So you want to attach to Jewish people, and you found this rabbi that's willing to teach you something. You know what I mean? And he calls you his your rabbi. So that means something at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It does mean something. So these people will go to war for the rabbi. Go to these little battles and these debates with them. But
Oh
even
yeah.
within the debates are so good because more than likely their rabbi never told them about the three different opinions. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
within the
Oh,
debate, they're seeing this. You know what I mean? So it's good for everybody. I mean, you got to have that opposite to be able to have the back and forth, the suspension and contraction, and to build a Torah koan. You can't do it with one person. And see, this is I was thinking about this, and let me get your. I've never really studied this, but of course, I've read it in the Torah several times, but. Uh, Abraham always had a tent out, and then he would never let a stranger pass without offering him food and drink, and talking to him. What do you think they talked about? What do you think he talked about with these strangers?
yeah. He talked about the Torah. He talked about Hashem. He
And these
talked
were
about the
strangers, right?
seven laws. Yeah, yeah.
You know
And
what I
he
mean?
talked
So
about them.
you here you are in the Torah, and you have the Father of all faiths right here, and he purposely pitched a tent outside and didn't let a strange and four strangers to catch strangers out on the road, to meet with
Mhm.
them. Why? Why did he do it? Did he have
Yeah, he
abundance
was.
of food he had to give away? Did he have abundance of
Yeah.
wine and water that he had to get rid of before it went bad? So he said, "Well, I'm going to sit out here and I'm going to make sure to give this away to everybody because I don't want it going bad." No, that's not why he did it. You know what I mean?
He was bringing. I believe that he went to Canaan in order to do that and to correct their thinking and to teach them about uh, Hashem, about one God, and to turn them from their evil ways. And so he was excited to do that, and he was happy to share the faith that he had found and
He
he
did
had
everything with joy.
learned. Yeah,
Everything.
and,
He woke
and
up
out of
early in
compassion.
the binding of
Yeah.
Isaac to go, for the binding of Isaac. He got up early and was joyful. So that's what I'm saying. It's the approach. You the
So you have
the
those but you have those rabbis out there that they'll go to the nations and have that attitude, and then you'll
absolutely.
you'll have you'll have those rabbis that are going to is set the righteous from among the nations over to the side and put them under the most stringent halakha, the same halakha as they would put under the Christian under is what they're going to put you under, because they do can still consider the Noahide, as an idolater, or has the same potential as an idolater, or they wouldn't put you under that halakha.
Right. Yeah. But
I mean, it's obvious they obviously have to be thinking the same way. Why would you do it if you know, and we have to look at it. as far as if the Jewish people did not allow the Gentile and some Jews to pervert the meaning of their scriptures by teaching them correctly what these scriptures meant, you would never have Christianity. And so
Well,
here we had you know uh, Jews going out to Gentile nations, teaching the Gentiles a Torah from a skewed perspective, and no one stopped him, no one corrected him, no one did anything like that, and he exposed these non-Jews to Torah concepts, and they were never corrected and taught correctly, and so out of that bore a whole replacement theology religion, and because of the same thing we're talking about, all these books are now wrote in English, and they can be comprehended mistakenly, even reading the English.
yeah,
And
very
so
easily.
no, because there's no one instructing them on how to understand it correctly. If you're going to buy the book, if I never bought the book, then so what? Doesn't matter. But if I went and bought the book, I obviously have questions. I'm obviously interested in it. I'm obviously curious about it, and trying to learn about it. Why would you allow me to learn your holy text mistakenly? Why would you allow that? Why wouldn't you come and say, no, no, this is the way we view that, this is the way we understand that, this is the way we do that? Seeing how you're already learning it because we already translated it into English, and you're already learning it, and you're already curious about it, we might as well go ahead and teach you correctly. And
Yeah,
that is the centrist view of it, and I believe it's the most proper view to take. You've got two other
yeah,
extremes that are both dangerous. One of them is, hey, just learn it, just go read everything, and come, and so what if you come up with your own understandings? And we got this other one that is so stringent that you squelch all understanding,
right.
in the same way as you would squelch an idolater from learning your text, your sacred text. So, and those two views are extreme, and both of them are dangerous. But the centrist view is, if you're gonna try to learn about it, I'm gonna try to teach you to go the right way with it.
Well, I think at the
What
end of
was
the day, you can agree to this: the people that don't want to learn or don't want to take on anything else will find rabbis that don't want them to learn, and the people that want to learn will
yeah,
find rabbis that will teach them. I mean,
that
that's
is
true at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
well,
So
that's reality at the end of the day.
that's the yeah, exactly. That is the reality of the situation. So really, when you hear people debating this topic, just understand the debate within itself is Torah. At the end of the day, you got to
Yeah.
have
Well,
that opposite. You know what I mean? To you got to have the back and forth, and then I learn, they learn. Even though they don't want to learn. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
well, they're learning.
So
They're learning all time. And they're
yeah,
picking up they're picking up books they're telling me not to read, and they're looking
using them
at,
as
I
sources.
guarantee you.
Yeah,
Yeah, they because they can source everything to tell me what I'm doing wrong by sources they're telling me I shouldn't be reading, and that's how they're
exactly.
finding out what I'm doing wrong. So, but the sad thing about it is you'll see, what I've seen is these rabbis that are restricting the knowledge of Torah to the righteous from among the nations, and there is a rabbi that is teaching it. They will condemn that rabbi and talk
Y-
about that rabbi and
Yeah,
say
I
negative
was
things,
I was
and
just fixing
that's
to
the
go there.
saddest. That is the
That's
saddest
exactly
part.
where I was going next. Is that's the worst part of it, is that these rabbis attacking each other because, oh well, I got this little group that I don't teach any Torah to, or I teach them some what I want to teach them, and now you're over here teaching them what I told them they can't learn. Now you're really hurting my little thing I got going on over here. You know what I mean? And they
Mm,
don't do it behind closed doors like it should be done, where they have their back and forth, to say, hey, I don't appreciate
mhm.
this and this is why, blah, blah, blah. They do it out on public forums. And then it becomes, then it's like it's just an ego thing. You know what I mean? Well, I'm right and you're wrong. This rabbi's not right. And you're calling him out in public. Well, he really ain't right. And you were. The proper way to handle that would be between y'all two privately, but they don't do it. They never do it that way that I know of. You know what I mean?
Uh,
It's always done in a public
because
forum.
they want to publicly
Say it
berate them, so no one else will come to them
and learn
and
Torah.
be shunned from stuff and learn Torah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
Uh,
going to say.
and so we have this and like I said, they should do it. They should do it privately, because at the end of the day, so to speak, this is a rabbinical problem. It's not a
Exactly.
Gentile problem. You translate the books into English. I'm reading it.
I'm just reading what
This
you
is
translate.
your
Yeah,
problem. It's your problem if I don't understand it right.
right. Yeah,
It's your problem. I mean, I didn't tell you to translate the books.
yeah.
I could understand if you didn't translate them and I went and learned Hebrew, and now I'm learning something because I went and took the time and the effort to learn Hebrew. That might be something else. But you put it in English to where everybody can read it.
Right,
And now you're complaining because somebody read it. But you're not only complaining now you're complaining about rabbis who are trying to correct the ones that are reading it mistakenly. And you're publicly doing it, trying to make insinuations about them and different things about them. And that's the saddest thing. And that right there kind of showcases I guess, the negativity of the concept of restraining the light, restraining Torah from people. I mean, it comes with a negative connotation. I'm going to withhold Torah back from the world. Well, it just um, showcases a negative concept in the world. And what is that negative concept? That there's no Torah in it.
yeah. But I do
When you
think,
have a world with no Torah, you're going to have negative. If you're holding Torah back from the world, it's connected with negativity and a negative energy. If you're giving Torah out and you're trying to give it out correctly,
right. That's
in
the
a
key.
way,
Correctly.
that's life. And now you've got so you can see the difference in in what's going on. And maybe the rabbis need time to work out their issues amongst themselves.
Well, I mean, it's only
But
been. I
the thing
mean,
about it is they don't have a Sanhedrin to tell them. So
yeah.
at this point, it's kind of speculation. So what do? They got to argue back and forth with one another. They don't have a Sanhedrin that's going to come and tell you, no, this is how you do it. This is what you do. And until then, it's a wild wild west. It's whoever can make their point be known the loudest and uh, and influence the most people with it. But it is tough for these rabbis who are restricting knowledge in Torah from the righteous from among the nations to really influence people. I mean, they get a lot of people that come to them, but they don't get a lot of people to stay with them.
Right.
If it were so, there'd be as many Noahides or there are Messianics. But it's not. They go into it, they look at it, and they go, this ain't for me. I know hundreds of people that have gone down this road, and they're sitting there like, man, I ain't dealing with that no more. And so I'm just going to sit back, study, seek God out. I'm not getting with all these guys fighting back and forth of who can do what and what can't do that. And I can't do this and you can't do that. And I can do this and these over here are doing that, but you can't do that. and everybody gets sick of it, which is a nice way if you want to keep Torah from the nations. It's a nice way
Yeah.
to do. Just turn the whole thing into a mess, and then who would want to be? So I mean, I personally think in some levels that is a tactic that's being used. Just turn it all into a mess.
Well,
And
that's what the whole world is right now. Is a mess.
that's,
You know,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and they
really, if you
succeeded.
yeah, if you look at the basis of reality, it's being questioned every day. You know what I mean? I mean,
Hmm.
if we can't even agree on how many genders there are in the world, you know, I know that's a whole nother topic, but that's to what you're talking about is blurring the lines. If you blur the lines enough, then you know you could discredit or you can credit anything you want to. You know what I mean? Because there's no, like you said, there's no Sanhedrin to guide them or to say, well, this is it right here. This right here. This is where it stops right here, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to handle it. And you know, they're Gerto Shab or they're not Gerto Shab, or
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, we're gonna invent a new word and put it in, and we're gonna
Yeah,
call them
yeah.
Noahides, whatever it is. But like you said, that's not in place. So what can you do? You can use what you're talking about as a tactic to you know, blur the lines to cause confusion. You know what I mean? Cause frustration. But the ones that you know that want to attach themselves to Torah and to Hashem, they're not going to be, you know, I've never been strayed by that. The only thing that it never caused any straying, but I've never come to agree with is the term Noahide. And I have my reasons. What me and you've talked about several times. We talked about a little bit tonight, but there's a lot more to it than that. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
because I think a lot of times, you know, the word Noahide gets thrown around and it gives people a certain past to act a certain way or to do certain things or be part of certain groups. And that's th- attaching yourself to Torah as a non-Jew is a heavy commitment by itself because you, you're coming out of one theology, you know what I mean? And so your mindset, you're probably in a Western mindset, so you got to learn to think in an Eastern mindset. A lot of psychology in it because the way you were raised and how you were
Mhm.
taught, you know what I mean? Even the names, you know, and then if you know, learn a little bit of Hebrew, understand the terminology. But first out of all of that, before you can even feel comfortable doing that, you have to realize that you're going to be outside of your family and friends. You know, everybody, if you're leaving idolatry, you got to leave it. You can't, well, I'm going to keep this, and you know, I'm still want to do Christmas, even though I'm not going to, you know, do a tree and everything, but I'm going to go over and go to these parties and everything. You know, it's in a difficult place to be. So you have all these
Mhm.
obstacles to begin with, and then if you get through those, then you get to the debate about, you know, you, in other words, you made it that far. You gave up Christmas. You probably, you know, don't talk to some friends anymore. You could even fracture the family up because of, you know, your beliefs. Or you could split a whole church up, you know, when you left, if you were a leader, because you're like, oh, I don't see this anymore. I don't see God in this, and all this. And then you make it through all of that. And then you get there. Well, we can't teach you Torah because you're liable to death because it says it right here in, you know, the Mishnah.
Yeah,
So we're
you're
not going
gonna
to
have a
teach you.
spiritual death. You know, you know,
Yeah,
God's gonna kill you.
and then you're like, wait a minute, I came all this way, and you're going to close the door. Now I made it through all of this. You know what I mean? And you're going to close the door and say, well, that's, should have stayed a Christian, bud. I don't know what to tell you. You can learn anything you want to over there. You know, it don't make any sense. You know what I mean? It don't. And I understand people's frustration.
Yeah,
I understand the frustration from the Jewish community, and I definitely understand the frustration from the Gentile community, the non-Jewish community that want to
yeah.
study Torah. You know.
One of the things, if we look at, you know, this book right here, I think y'all can see that book pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It was written, I think back in '87, something like this. I know the Rebbe was still alive, and so it was written by Chaim Chlorfine and Yaakov Rogowski.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was told a story by Chaim Chlorfine that uh, Yaakov Rogowski wrote the book with him, and he was talking with the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe, you know, like, well, what do I do now? What do I do now that I wrote this book for the righteous Gentile. And you'll notice they didn't call it Noahide back
Yeah,
then.
the righteous Gentile.
And so um, the Rebbe told him to stay away from the organizations. Okay, and because it is the organizations that have, I believe, that have corrupted the thinking and the purity of the non-Jew coming to Torah and coming to learn their place in Torah, because they want to, because obviously they want to commercialize it. They want to install members and have, you
Hierarchy,
know, a hierarchy and establish a hierarchy and all these different things.
control,
So I
dominance, ego.
control.
That's what exists
Mm,
within, and that's
yeah.
sad. It's sad, but it's true. You would think community would mean something else besides, hierarchy, but you see it every
How it
day. Yeah,
evolves.
yeah,
It's how it evolves. I've watched some of it, develop, and the exact same things were coming up. You want somebody wants to be the leader, and somebody wants to have a following, and then somebody wants to make a profit, and then somebody wants all these different things, and uh, so it contaminated it because why? They didn't follow this wisdom of staying away from the organizations, and the person that wants to connect with Torah and does it really on an individual basis. Doesn't mean you can't have your friends, doesn't mean you can't come together and do so, but there's no leader, there's no organization, there's no paying dues, there's no uh, things that restrict you in this group versus this group. Well, we do it like this and we do it like that, and so you're wrong if you do it like that. You're wrong if you do it like this. Which we go to, or we have gone to many different homes where the righteous non-Jew practiced and are observed a uh, memorial to Shabbat, just like you said you do. And we go into all these different houses, and they all do it differently. And so, and we never once said, "Hey, we don't do it like that. We do it like this," and y'all are going to go to hell, as borrowing a
yeah.
Christian term.
Well, I
You
think
know,
you've always had the right approach with that because you've always, every time I come to you for advice or, to teach me, and when I came to you and Teresa about, hey, I want to start doing Shabbat at the house as a memorial, I want to light the candles, what should I do? And one of the things, the first thing I remember you told me was, well, this is how we do it. Now you have to understand this is your family. This is going to be your, Shabbat table where you'll be lighting the candles. You do it how you want to do it within these kosher boundaries. You know what I mean? But you're taking this on. This is your thing, and you know what I mean. You weren't like, well, you got to do this. You got to do that. You got to make sure to do this. You you gave me, and this was with all things. With we just did Passover. And I think you know the way it should be taught is this way you teach it. I think is that, hey, here's a guideline. You know what I mean? But this is something that you're going to do, and you need to take it upon yourself and make it yours, not turn it into something it ain't, but make it yours within your home that works for you and your family. You know what I mean? And I think
it's
that's
your
a
memorial. It's your
is
memorial
right,
observance. It's not
right.
mine. You know,
Yeah,
we you know
it's for the
we
sake of
we do
heaven. You know what I mean? I'm not. Yeah, yeah,
we observe it. We observe it in this manner, as a memorial in this manner. And if there's things you can identify with it and pick up on it and connect with, then fine. If there's something you wind up doing and we say, hey man, that was really meaningful. It really honored Israel. It really honored the Torah and Hashem. You know, that's something. It's something that we could do to do that same thing and to achieve that same goal. And that's because it's not a competition. It's
Yeah.
not
Right.
it's not a denomination. I'm not making a denomination here. We're not trying to do that. We're just exploring ways to uh, relate as a Torah observant Gentile or non-Jew or someone from the Torah observant person from the nations uh, to try to lay because we have no traditions. There is
That's
no
right.
tradition. So how do you do it? How do you do it? Well, we go walk around in the woods and look at the branches and the leaves and we think of Hashem. Well, what are you going to do in the wintertime when there's no leaves on the trees? What do you do then? You know, it's all kind of crazy stuff that comes up. You
Yeah, I know.
know, uh,
But,
problems that come up, and so uh, we don't have any traditions, and so we are in the process of learning Torah, and we're in the process of creating traditions. And there's people who want to control the Torah that is learned, and there's people that want to control what traditions you develop because they don't. And I don't. For the reason, what can I think of is maybe like, man, I don't want that tradition to become established because I'm going to have to do it. So I'm going to be against it because I don't want everybody to start doing it and then I don't do it, and then people are going to think something about me
mhm.
because I don't do it. That
And you
is
see
that
that
is
all the
such
time
a
with
perverted mindset.
right, and and a perfect example that I see more than anything it is is about the eating of the pork, eating clean versus eating unclean. And I had somebody ask me, it was really interesting, and we are kind of going back and forth, and uh, they said, "Well, do you eat kosher?" And I said, "Well, I don't eat kosher because I don't buy kosher meat, but I don't mix dairy in my kitchen with the meat. I don't eat pork. I don't eat, you know, certain fish, shrimp and lobster, and I mean, we go on and on. But I eat clean. But I don't eat kosher." And they're like, "Well, I don't know if I could eat clean." I said, "Well, you don't have to." And their first question is, "Well, why do you?" And my answer, it kind of set me back. Well, why do I? I had to go back to, why did I choose just when did I start to eat clean and why? And I remember it. I never really thought about it to have to explain to somebody, but I do remember it. I I was doing a Torah study, and I was just kind of stuck. I was learning. We were doing. Well, it was a. It was a. It was a. It was actually Eov. It was a Job study. Me and you were doing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And I was getting stuck on trying to understand the sporting of Leviathan. You know, it's I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what Hashem was trying to tell him, about Leviathan. And in other words, I was just stuck. I'm not going to get into that whole teaching, but I was stuck on that part of it, and I was like, man, what can I do? I prayed about it and everything, and I said, well, you know, I just got to thinking, what you put in is what you get out. You know what I mean? If eating clean would develop a better relationship with my Creator, you know what I mean, then that's what I want to do. You know what I mean? And part of me did it because I felt like if I was going to take on learning these very uh, deeper concepts, even Kabbalistic concepts, Talmudic concepts, that your mind and body need to be in line, and what you put in, you put garbage in, you get garbage out. You know what I mean? That's
Hmm.
with anything. You eat 42 cheeseburgers, you're not going to be in very good shape. So it's just, and then, but I was thinking, well, how does my dietary affect my spirituality? You know what I mean? Well, there's a reason why you eat clean. It's because it don't just affect your physical; it affects the spiritual. We were speaking spirits. You know what I mean? So, what we see with our eyes, what enters into the gates of our soul, you know, what we put in our mouth and gets into our nefesh, it all affects the soul. And in my mind, this is why I can't speak to everybody else. Why Brad Mace chose to eat clean is for those reasons. Now, that doesn't mean that the next person has to make that decision. That that just because you choose to not eat clean does not mean you're not going to have a relationship with your Creator and have a relationship with Hashem. That's not what that means. It just means, and not that my level is higher or better than your level. It's my level. It's my relationship with Hashem. And for where I need to be or want to be and feel like I need to be, I chose to do this. You may be at that level and eat unclean. That's what people don't understand. It's like, I think some people see people and they say, "Oh, they're over there. They eat clean. They're doing Shabbat. They're in this other group they're over there talking to, they're doing all the feasts and everything, and they're building sukkahs, and they're walking around with beards and everything else, looking Jewish, and that's not that doesn't that we're not doing it to say we're better, or this group's trying to say they're better. Then everything I've done's been on a personal level, not on a group level. I've never done anything because of we don't even first of all, I've never been part of any kind of Noahide group. I've met people that are part of Noahide group, good people, and I don't have anything against those people. And I think the way they do it is good for them. But what me, from an outsider looking in on people that are part of these Noahide communities, and this doesn't go to this is not applied to everybody, but a lot of them are stuck. There's no more elevation because you're told you can't do that. We don't do that. Well, this is not a group journey. Tikkun and rectification is on an individual level. You know what I mean? We have what we need to do here, our rectification, our own rectification that takes place, that has to be accomplished. And if we try to do that on a group basis, then we're failing Hashem, because we're not the Jewish people. That's a group. That's a group redemption. That's a group tikkun. All we can do is the individual. And maybe I'm wrong about that. And I mean, how do you feel about that? Or what have you been taught about that, compared from the group tikkun to the individual level rectification?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to studying in a group, having a study partner, and to being in a group, and you know, spiritually, psychologically, and there's a lot of benefits to learning. I mean, having a study partner and have somebody to study with and to bounce things off of and to get ideas from. There's a lot of benefit to it. So it's not to say we shouldn't interact with one another, and we shouldn't engage with one another in activities that are based in Torah, but we shouldn't organize to the fact to where how we do things affect if we can pay the electric bill of the building, or do we have to uh, have someone and put them as a leader, and now they feel like they have to um, adjust what they teach or what they say to accommodate the entire group and not offend any one person, or not become unpopular as to that they lose their position and
Right.
possibly lose the money that they're trying to give them. But so yes, there is benefit in coming together, and there is uh,
As long as you don't
how I should
lose that
say.
individuality, you know what I mean? As long as you
No,
don't lose
yeah,
yourself, you know what I mean?
That's true, and you can do that. You can do that within a group, and it doesn't hurt to have maybe somebody designated as a is kind of running the tour study, is kind of keeping it organized and keeping it moving and da da da. There's
Absolutely.
nothing wrong with that,
There's
but
got you
it's
got to be there's got to be order. And you
yeah,
got to have somebody that knows a little bit of something to be able to teach anybody anything. You know what I
right.
mean? Uh,
But the idea
because
is for everybody to learn together, and you can learn from
right,
everybody.
learn
And so, and
together.
that's what we do on Tuesday nights when we have our partial reading, and thank Hashem for the technology like we're experiencing here, where we're interacting together, across town, or you're actually in another little town, and but on Tuesday nights, we coming together from all over the United States, and friends that studied together for a long time, maybe moved off or are doing something, and so we come together, and we study together uh, via technology, and we have and we kind of have some organization to it a little bit, to where we know how to keep going, and we don't we so we can meet our study goals and all this stuff like that. So it turns out to be really good, and we got a sense of community, because we see all of our old friends every week, and we get to talk to them and catch up and do all this stuff like that. But then also, what we do is we are gleaning from everyone else's study, and
Right. Uh,
somebody's coming in and say, well, yes, I heard, I seen this from this source, and I heard, and I was taught this from this rabbi, and I remember Rabbi so and so saying this, and then somebody else will turn around, get a commentary and say, look at this. And so it is a collective learning that create from a lot of different dynamics, that when we come together, we create this super conscious position in Torah. And I think that is a wonderful way to study Torah. Now going
absolutely.
back to what you were talking about, the food and the dietary and reasons for it. And of course, you're absolutely right with telling people, and always tell people, that they're not obligated to do it. But
Right.
it's an interesting question. Then why do you do it? And there's a lot of different stories about it. And I remember uh, one particular story about that I was having with Rabbi Richmond was talking about. We were talking about eating meat and cheese, and chicken and cheese, and then red meat and cheese, and all this different things. And of course, he was, very specific to tell me, you're not obligated to do any of this, right?
Right. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
but this,
Yeah.
but we're talking about it. I'm asking him questions, and he's answering them, because, he took that centrist view on teaching Torah to the nations, to where
Hmm.
if you asked him a question, he would answer it, and he would answer it on your level, on the level you answered the question, that you asked the question, he would answer it on. But anyway, he's talking about this um, thing, and he's explained it all to me, but without telling me to do it. But then, he had his glasses down on his nose like he would do. And he looked over his glasses, and he looked at me, and he said, well, he said, Russell, if there wasn't something wrong with it, God wouldn't have commanded us not to do it. And so, but he never told me not to do it. But
Yeah.
Sam Peake, which is also, that was with Rabbi Richmond for many, many years, and a great um,
Teacher. He's a good teacher too.
teacher to the nations, absolutely, probably, if not the best. Um, Sam Peake was if you're talking to a man at the time, when he taught this, he had taught uh, Torah to the nations for 25 years,
Wow.
and and he said he said, I've taught Torah to the nations for 25 years, and he said, and I knew the people he taught. He knew the people he was teaching, and he knew the ones that ate clean, and he knew the ones that didn't. And of course, he never said to anybody, "Hey, you have to eat like this, or you have to eat like that." He never would say anything like that. But he knew the ones that chose to do it on their own, and the ones that chose not to do it. And he told us this. He said, all the ones that ate clean seemed to grasp Torah concepts easier, better, and quicker than all those that didn't eat clean and just ate whatever. They seem to always struggle with Torah concepts, and so that is a a an example from a living situation, to where we have a teacher that knew the background of his students and was able to see them evolve in their learning and their understanding of Torah, and was able to recognize those that struggled were the ones who didn't eat clean, and those who learned easier and were able to understand better were the ones that did. That is probably one of the main reasons that I practice the dietary laws that I practice. I know I'm not obligated, and I would never tell anybody they couldn't
Right.
eat
I've
pork.
never told
You
anybody
know,
to.
I love Christians and people. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't eat pork. Well, pork is good. I agree with you.
I'm not
It's
saying it
good.
tastes bad. Never
Yeah,
said
it's
that.
like,
Uh,
am I not eating it
yeah,
because I don't like the way it tastes, or I don't think it tastes good,
yeah,
or I don't, it's like, I get it. I say, yeah, it's good. I just, choose not to eat it.
yeah.
It,
I
you
think
know,
when you tell people that, like you're saying, you get an automatic reaction. Is, well, why not? I don't understand. I thought you weren't Jewish. Well, I'm not Jewish. I just don't. I don't do it because God said you shouldn't, and there's something to it. Okay, but nobody's ever asked me, well, why do I? Until that time, uh, and to kind of go back on that to what you're saying now, did by starting to eat clean, did I automatically get that get a better understanding from what we were studying? I don't know, but I will tell you this: my relationship with Hashem became stronger. My discipline and
right, yeah.
Torah study became stronger. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
I can't tell you that my knowledge. I think yes. Did I acquire more knowledge and understanding and get a little wiser? Well, yes, of course I did, because I developed a better relationship. Just by choosing to do something like that, you're choosing a discipline, and we're right now in the days of counting the Omar. And what has the Omar talked about here lately? Where we're at about discipline, and study. It all takes self-discipline, everything you do in life, whether you're approaching the
mhm,
Torah, or you're trying to learn a new skill, or acquire a certain thing, or accomplish or write a book. Anything takes discipline. Okay,
mhm,
well, just by choosing to change your diet, that's discipline in itself. And then if you take that same thing, that discipline, and since you apply it for the sake of heaven, you're not doing it because you're trying to gain. You just, well, I'm doing it because God said there's something to it. I'm doing it because I want to have a better relationship with Him, and I will do, and then I will hear approach.
mhm.
Then
But
in
one
turn, that
thing we
that
gotta, yeah.
discipline, yeah, that discipline will affect your Torah knowledge. You know what I mean? Yes, absolutely.
But what we have to make sure that everybody understands is, we're not saying that people that eat pork aren't smart, or
No,
don't have an intelligence.
no,
They do. We're talking about this purely on a spiritual context, with learning Torah, and
right.
and like you said, doing this one thing uh, because God said that it was a thing to do. He didn't tell you it was your thing to do, but you're doing it because He said it was a thing to do, and that that taking on that mitzvah of just saying, "Hey, look, I'm just not going to eat pork."
Yeah, that's
Okay,
how it started
just
for
taking
me.
that on,
Yeah,
yeah, just
yeah,
taking on that one thing does draw you closer and gives you a more of a consciousness of Hashem, because you live, or we all live, in a world of action.
right,
And when we um, apply the things we learn to our physical life and our physical actions, we spiritually draw closer to it. That's kind of how the dynamic works, and we become more spiritually consciousness because we're physically doing. And you can
right.
take that as far as you want to go with it. You can take that to accepting the 613 and becoming a full convert to Judaism. You can take it as
Absolutely.
far as you want to go, or you can take one step. I just choose not to eat pork,
Yeah.
and I do this one thing, and so it's a
But you know what's
spectrum.
funny is when you choose to do that one thing, it usually just doesn't stop there. You know what I mean?
Not usually,
It
yeah.
yeah, it usually, as you grow and as you continue on your journey to cocoon and develop a relationship with Hashem, the God of Israel. You know, if when you take on one discipline, it just kind of it'll snowball. And I'm not just saying from a personal level. I've seen it to a lot of different people. They just started with this, and I'm not sitting here calling them, they turned into a big Torah scholars, and they're writing books and all this. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying there was an absolute change, not just a physical change, that there or the but a spiritual. You see it. You know what I mean? It's part of the growth.
Hmm.
But the people, and I know people. I think I know people that probably only eat a pork diet, and I can't even have conversations with them because they're such on an intellectual level that I can't
Hmm.
debate them. I can't say they're wrong. You know what I mean? And these are
Yeah,
people that, so it's not gonna, if anybody's listening to this and you're thinking, well, man, if I start eating
I got a
clean.
PhD and I eat pork. That's what they're thinking in their mind.
Yeah,
It's like,
and
yeah,
that's but
yeah.
yes, it's not. It has nothing to do with being smarter, intellectual, or being better, or having a better relationship with the creator. It's what I'm talking about for when I'm telling this is what I needed. You know what I mean, to develop that relationship, and it helped me develop a better relationship with my creator, and in turn, I'm able to give my knowledge to my kids and to other people that come along because I chose to do this certain thing, and it snowballed into something else. But it was a personal choice, and it wasn't a choice that was based on anybody else around me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Uh, Matter of fact, it was a struggle at first. You know what I mean? You don't realize whether it's doing Shabbatism or moral, or eating clean, or eating kosher, or I've never tried to convert or anything, but on all of those different things take on a certain level of spirituality within the individual. And I'm not saying one's higher. That's not what I'm saying. Just different. It's a different part of the spiritual growth within that person because of what, like you said, his mazel requires, or her mazel, needs. That's why some converts, it's great, and they've been, to them, this is where they've been their whole life. You know what I mean? Where other ones
Hmm.
come out of it with a very negative effect from it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't, this ain't a catch all. It doesn't work for everybody. It's not for everybody. Choosing these certain things, whether it's doing Shabbat memorial, or eating a certain way, or studying with a certain person, or studying with a certain rabbi. All this has got to be. You just don't want to lose, because let's be honest. I was watching this a little bit of this Netflix special about the Branch Davidians. That's out, this brand new series.
Mm, yeah,
And
yeah.
then I've got to where I've watched a couple other documentaries about, and doesn't make me an expert. I'm not calling myself an expert, but it's one of the things that I took away from watching these documentaries about cults uh, is that all of them, the people within them, people say, "Well, I just don't understand how anybody would just agree to that." Well, then you don't understand how a cult works. How a cult works, and this is true with all of them, is it takes away the individuality of the people within the cult and makes it a group consciousness. You know what I mean? So you lose your individuality, and then so anything's okay because, oh, I'm part of a greater good. So yeah, it don't matter my personal feelings, or that I let my spouse be with the leader, or that these things go on with it because the rules don't apply, because it's not about me. You know what I mean? What I think people need to realize is that your relationship with God is your relationship, period, and you're accountable when you stand before the heavenly court. It you're you're not counted on the group level. You don't get a group discount. You can say, well, I didn't do really good, but Bob over here, I was in the same group as him, and he's never done anything wrong. That's got to count for something, right? Well, no, you're not Bob. You're Brad, and you weren't very good. You didn't do a lot. Bob took care of orphans and widows and gave charity, and believed in the revelation at Sinai. And all you did was drive Bob around, you know? Yeah, but, I was in the same group with Bob. Yeah, but, all you really worship Bob. You never really developed a relationship with me. you know you can't lose that individuality, and you gotta, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your relationship with God, and for your, like you said, we're in a world of action. You have to be accountable for all your actions. God's not going to put us in a situation where things would happen that we would take on the guilt from, that we can't be responsible for. That's not a just God. That's not the God of the Torah. That's not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, He's just and He is merciful, because at the end of the day, we have to understand that what we do is our responsibility, and how we do it's our responsibility. You don't have to explain anything to anybody except
Hmm.
when when you're standing before that to God, and you have to explain, and you have to have, then you're raised to that level of consciousness to where you see all the cause and effects of what you did, because we can't even fathom. I think we talked about this the other night. I'm not going to really go into depth with it, but a human being, most of us, 99% of us, can't even fathom the effects we have every single day by every word spoken, body language, the stuff we did or didn't do, and what kind of effects that had into our reality. And what we're really responsible for. I mean, I think if we did understand that here, we wouldn't be able to move a muscle, on that level of consciousness, and that's a good thing. That's a merciful God, that, you know, the reason we're on the level of consciousness we are is so we can do this, so we can mature the soul, that we can work on our rectification, tikkun. But at the end of the day, if you're part of a group, and that group operates more on what's best for the group and not what's for the sake of heaven or your relationship, because you're accountable at the end of the day. You're accountable for what you did or didn't do,
Hmm.
period. And I watched all these different documentaries, and they're basically all the same. They're all the same with different names. The names have changed,
Hmm.
but they're all the same. They break down the individuality of the person, and establish a group identity, and everybody attaches themselves to that, and on a wing and a prayer, and they hope they all get the group discount at the end, and that's not the way it works. You know what I mean? uh and
Oh, the wisdom of the Rebbe is profound. It's to stay away from the organizations, meaning to stay away from the Noahide organizations, and develop relationships, develop friendships, develop
You can have
you know
community. You know?
a sense of community, but just don't have an organization. And I tell you what, if we can focus on that, then you as an individual and the people around you are going to grow and learn and be more happy and um, enjoy Torah much more than the minute you get into one of these organizations or these groups that are trying to execute an agenda. So it's the best information I could probably give anybody is to share that story that was told about the path of the righteous Gentile, and so what we need to do is focus on our individual growth and helping others grow by giving them resources, helping them study, uh, introducing them to the rabbis that will help them, and encourage those who are trying to do more and more and more to maybe seek that path to um, conversion and support them maybe in that decision to do so. Um, you know, and and uh, and just be this type of righteous person from among the nations that Hashem intended us to be, and not try to be a new church or a different kind of church. And when I'm saying church, I'm talking about an organization, a building with uh, denominations, and if you come into this building you got to think like this, and if you're in this building over here you got to think like that, and then you got to raise money to pay the electric bill, and then you got to raise money to pay your leader, and then you got to pay all of these different things. And so all of that dynamic that the church uh, has brought into the thinking, which it's older than the church actually, but it's all a distraction
It is.
to
Yeah.
to what Torah is to me as an individual, or what Torah is between me and you in our relationship, and because we don't ever talk about organizations.
Mm-mm.
We don't ever
No,
talk about we don't have an agenda of
there's
anything
no
other
agenda.
than just we
There,
sit here and we talk about our experiences, and we talk about what we've learned, and we talk about what people have told us, and
we read a bunch
and
of very interesting books, and we love to talk
we
about
read
them. We love to bug the rabbis about them
yeah,
and ask questions,
and
But at the end of the day, man, it's a journey, and it's a fascinating journey at that, because there's so much, like you said, there's so much information out there, so many books that's been translated that you could pick up and read, and man, I mean, every day, you're like, oh wow, and then we go to the rabbi, and he's like, what? When did they translate that? I mean, so
yeah,
they're trying to keep up too. You know what I mean?
hmm
And they're like, man, I've never even read that. And I certainly didn't know it was translated. So,
yeah,
but the thing is, just to kind of wrap it up, I think we're kind of going on and on about this, but I think one last point I want to make, and you can follow up and see what you think about it. But that I think it's part of, when I say us, people that came out of Christianity, that came out of a church, some of us more than others, but we
hmm
operated on a psychological level of somebody making all our spiritual decisions for us. We knew where we were, what day we were going to go do it. We knew who was going to tell us about it, what time we had to be there, the people that would, that would be there, and every decision, that dealt with our relationship with God was made for us. Somebody else made those
hmm
decisions because we let them. You know what I mean? It's not like somebody tried to overpower us, but we let somebody make the decisions. In other words, what time you're going to go worship, what you're going to study this week, and this is what it says. This is what it means. Uh, this is how we do it in this denomination of church. Whether you're Baptist, Methodist, Catholic, Lutheran, Protestant, whatever it was. But this is how we do it. We don't dance. Oh, we do dance over here. All these decisions and all these different things were made for us. Well, because and as soon here's the deal. This is what's fascinating, and it's so it's not that big of a deal, but it's very profound if you think about it. At least it is for me. I'm pretty simple minded. Is that as soon as you start thinking on the individual level, what happens? You end up leaving the church. When you start studying yourself, when you start doing the research yourself outside of what somebody's telling you to do, what happens? You end up leaving Christianity. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
you become a pastor for $1 million church. With 1 million
Right.
followers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what you're saying is a load of crap. These guys know. There's no doubt about it. They know because of the way they approach it. It's just a business. It's a business, and I can tell by the way they act. They act no different than these sports guys and everything else. I'm not gonna get off topic. Getting back to it, as soon as you start thinking as an individual and you start developing that personal relationship with God,
Hmm.
with Hashem, then He'll lead you to where you need to be. There's no doubt.
That's
When you make
yeah.
your own decisions and you follow your heart and you line your heart with your mind, and that's the key. That's the key.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting insight. Talking about having other people make spiritual decisions for you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's exactly what uh, we've allowed things to happen instead of letting someone coming in and guiding you spiritually.
Guiding
That's a
you. Yeah.
dip. There's a difference in between guiding you spiritually and making spiritual decisions for you. And then, because you need to make your spiritual decisions for yourself,
Absolutely.
but your success at making the right decision is who is guiding you,
Right.
spiritually. So who are you going to choose to guide you spiritually? Are you going to choose a pastor to guide you spiritually? Are you going to, knowing that the history of the church and the situation that they've gained their knowledge and their wisdom and their understanding is from outside of uh, the Torah? Are you going to go and seek guidance from a rabbi that is going to only teach you from the most stringent views of the Torah? Or are you going to go and learn from a rabbi that's going to be the most liberal and just, hey, learn anything, learn everything, and just throw everything at you and not have any uh, guidance? Both of those extremes are can be dangerous. Are you going to find that rabbi that is teaching you and guiding you with balance to where you can make those spiritual decisions for yourself from a perspective of balance and wisdom and understanding of Torah? And I think it's important to think, along those contexts that you're saying here. Who is making the spiritual decisions for you, or who are you allowing to guide you to make your own spiritual decisions? and
Yeah.
uh and how is that working out in your life? And so, if people would just start examining themselves, because like you said, we're here at counting the Omer, and this is a time to where we're examining ourselves, and we're looking inward and reflecting on all of our actions, because we live in the world of action
Right.
and what we do. And so this is a great exercise during this time, is to start thinking about exactly what you talked about. Who is making the spiritual decisions for us, and who are we uh, seeking out to guide us? You know, do we want that person that's based in God's word, in His Torah, and that has through His people that He chose, or do we want to seek somebody else, with that was based out of an institution and an organization, and that was developed by man and solely by man?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
But
I
you,
tell you what, this is
yeah,
it's a great concept what you presented to us.
yeah. I think like I said, it's nothing. It's not too complicated. But at the end of the day, just like you said, and just to follow it up one last time, you're responsible for your relationship. Just know that, because if you're not, then you're gonna fall for anything. So you have to be responsible to learn a certain amount of Torah on your own. You know what I mean? To at least read. I'm not saying, uh, spend hours by yourself immersed in the word. That's not what I'm saying. But if you don't have any discipline in studying Torah, in other words, you're not going to pick up a book and at least read it. You're just going to go listen to videos and everything. You don't expect to grow. You know what I mean? In other words, be responsible for your own spiritual growth, and like you said, have somebody to guide you. And Russell, this is a good podcast, and I really appreciate your
Yeah,
time. And this subject right here, I think I mean, we can go on, and we'll probably have another follow up podcast, so everybody be
we
on the
should, and
lookout.
we should,
You
because
know,
this is just one dynamic. We should maybe go into maybe expounding some more on dietary laws and what they mean, because there's a lot more associated with this very interesting statement called eating the limb of a living
food
animal,
animal.
and why was the uh, non-Jewish person commanded not to do this and what that's about. I think that there is a lot of interesting discussion on that, and courts of justice and things like that. So there's a lot of things on it.
Yeah, we
Um,
could probably do a whole uh uh series with the 7 laws. You know what I mean? Uh, that's something that we've talked about, me and you, and
mhm.
putting together, and maybe in the future, just be on the lookout. And of course, anybody that's listening to this, we post these clips and the whole podcast on Facebook. Of course, we got a YouTube channel, Touring the Nations podcast. It's just Touring the Nations on YouTube. But whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, if anything we said, maybe you see it different, or you don't quite understand some of the concepts we're talking about, uh, man, feel free to reach out and comment, or to email us at touringthenations at gmail.com. So it's touringthenations at gmail.com, and just ask any questions. We're not looking for debate, but I think
But we
we all want to
will
get
if you want to.
we
I mean, if you ask
Russell
for it, you'll
Russell
get it.
definitely will. I'm not on that level. I'm not a big debater, but you could always reach out, and I know I've known Russell for 20 years, and 20 plus years, and I know if you're seeking answers, if he don't know, man, he'll find somebody that knows something that can get you to where you're trying to go. Maybe you just trying to to get some information on the subject. I mean, look, behind him, you see all these books. That's just a little microcosm of what's really going on over there. There's a lot of Torah that comes out of that house. I know we've said it in other podcasts, but that's just a fraction of the source material he has on hand. That's not counting what's upstairs up there, and all the contacts and people throughout, 20 plus years of studying Torah that he's met, interacted with, developed relationships with. Um, and so, I mean, feel free to contact us, Russell or me. And I'm probably going to send you to Russell, just to be honest. But that
Yeah,
if if there's anything we can do to help, I'd be
yeah,
I would love to try to to get you what you're looking for. And if you're looking for a debate, that's that's a specialty too within itself. I think debate's a good thing. Uh, we're
sometimes.
not going to debate your faith, but we'll debate an understanding or a concept, and there's no doubt about that. But I appreciate everybody that listens to this podcast, and I know we all have our own personal, individual struggles we go through, and that we try to overcome or try to get right. With it, because every time we turn around, I feel like we're stepping on somebody's toes or somebody stepping on our toes, and we think we're doing it right, and then one person says we're doing it wrong. Just know we're all in the same boat, and we all deal with the same struggles, just different days, different struggles. So again, appreciate it. Thank you, Russell, and everybody have a good
Thanks,
night.
Brad.